post-match chat with chaps for that Millwall podcast where it finished at the Den, Millwall 0, Luton Town 0, in a game that, if I'm honest, was devout of much quality. Two good sides that cancelled each other out, in my point of view. Is it a good point, or are we going to look back on that and say that that's 2 points dropped that we should have got? We won't know until around 3 or 4 weeks from now. Let's get into the game. And sort of what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of give my top 3 takeaways from yesterday before getting into the game, because sometimes these do go on for some time. So if people can only watch it for a couple of minutes, then you've kind of got 3 takeaways to sort of leave you pondering, I suppose. So that's something I'm going to try and do from now on. So my top 3 takeaways are, first of all, I think they're 2 good sides. I think Millwall and Luton are 2 good sides. They don't have the best players, either of them, and I don't think they have any real stars, but ultimately they're good teams, and I think that they're both capable of doing the physical side and the ugly side, and essentially what you got yesterday was 2 teams that cancelled each other out. And if we do get in the playoffs, and if we do draw them, I think it will be really interesting to see how we will show that we can break them down, because I think we drew 2-2 with them away at their place, and let's be honest, 2 goals, one was lucky, one was offside, and yesterday obviously we weren't able to break them down. So 2 very good sides, and ultimately they have to be. They're 4th and 5th in the Championship. I think Luton have actually gone 3rd. They're good sides, and they're not pretty on the eye, either of them, I don't think. But ultimately they're at the top end of the table, so they are 2 good sides. But I felt yesterday wasn't much quality. So that's the first thing. The second takeaway for me is a little bit concerning. Our form isn't that good at the moment, and actually we haven't scored for 3 games. We've drawn a blank in the last 3 games, and that is concerning to me. And we go into the final sort of 6 games with, to me, our form isn't great, and we need to see an upturn in it. I think ultimately, and this becomes my third sort of key takeaway, is that it leaves us in a position that's still in our control. It's not as pretty as it was before the game, with Norwich and Preston both winning. But I think what we've got to do is to just not worry about anyone else and to focus on ourselves. And we need to pick up probably 4 wins out of the 6. And I've said 73 points guarantees us playoffs. For me personally, that's my view. And we needed 4 wins from the last 7. So we've drawn 2. And we need to start picking up some wins. I think the whole game's massive, because if we don't win that game, I can see the teams that are below us winning their games, because they've got fairly easy fixtures, although there's no easy fixtures in this league. And I can see them leapfrogging us so that we could be out of the playoffs come Monday night. But what I will say is there's going to be lots of twists and turns between now and the end of the season. We're definitely going to be in the mix, 100%. It will go to the wire. There is no way we will go into the Blackburn game where we're sitting comfortably. That's just not going to happen. And I genuinely think if we can pick up wins at home to Birmingham, at home to Preston, at home to Blackburn, and maybe nick a win at Hull, we will be in the playoffs. But let's see. Anyway, let's get into it. So as I say, that's just something I'm going to try and do for those of you that don't want to listen to me ramble for 30 minutes, because I do appreciate these going on for some time. So the teams yesterday, the lineup. So he made 3 changes. 1 was enforced. So unfortunately, Charlie Cresswell had a really nasty eye injury. I didn't realise how bad it was, but he's got a fractured eye socket. And it doesn't look like he's going to play for us again this season, unfortunately. The injury looks quite bad, which is a real shame for the lad and a shame for us, because I think he's been superb in the last 10 games. And if I'm being really honest, on current form, I'd rather have Cresswell than Hutch in the team. And that's just being real honest. And I'm a huge Hutch fan. But we'll get into that anyway. So that was the enforced one. And then the 2 other changes were for the wide men up front. And this was Ollie Burke and Andreas Vogelsammer coming in for Duncan Watmore and George Honeyman. The one that surprised me, if I'm honest, was Honeyman not playing. That surprised me. That was a surprise, I think, because I felt Watmore had a poor game at West Brom, but Honeyman I thought was good, and I don't know whether he's got a knock or whether they're saving him for the whole game because it's his former club. I don't know, but that was the one that surprised me. So that was our team. For them, they were as you were. They've been getting themselves into a real rhythm, and they've been obviously very good. They are the informed team in the league alongside Stoke, who I think lost yesterday as well. So it just shows you how crazy this league is. And as I say, they've got a good side, and I think I won't touch on too much of their players, but what I will say is I think they defended very well. We are a big physical team. We do put lots of balls in the box, and not every team can stand up to that. And I felt they did. And they're not the biggest at the back. You know, Tom Lockyer and Gabriel Osho, Amari Bell, they're not the biggest. And I felt they really stood up to us yesterday. So credit to them. And I also felt that Carlton Morris and Elijah Adebayo are good players. I'd have either of them at Millwall. I really would. I think they're very, very good players. I think credit to us because we kept them largely quiet yesterday. But I think they show that they're willing to mix it. They're very physical. You know, Cooper and Hutch certainly didn't have it all their way yesterday. So I want to call out their centre-backs, their centre-forwards. And I felt their wide men were also quite effective. But I'm not sure if it's because of their quality or because the fact that the way they play with a five at the back enables them to essentially, at times, double up on our fullbacks, which I thought I would just talk about. So that was the team. And I have to say, I thought we started really well. The first 3 minutes, we come out like on fire. And the first 3 minutes, the ball gets recycled, ball into the box, it gets recycled. Fleming, superb ball, over the top. Burke spots it, really good anticipation, not offside. He's probably the only player on the pitch that would get there because of how quick he is. And then he tries to control it and the ball gets stuck under his feet and it rolls to the goalkeeper when he's in a one-on-one position. I think he's trying to go round the keeper and then obviously try and slot in an empty net. But it was a really poor first touch. And it's a shame because I actually felt the first 20 minutes, Ollie Burke seemed right up for it. He was winning every header in the air. And I've seen a lot of people comment and say they felt Ollie Burke won everything in the air yesterday. I don't think he did, actually. I think he won a lot in the first 20 minutes, but actually, especially in the second half, I don't think he won anything in the air. So, I don't know, just shows you how interesting and obviously how different people see things. But I thought Ollie Burke, first 20 minutes was superb, and after that, it went downhill. But we'll come into that. Then we had another chance with Bradshaw. So I think it was on 18 minutes. So again, ball played over the top. I think it was Murray Wallace. I don't know if it was inch perfect or the wind got it or whatever, but it was literally the perfect ball for a William runner like Bradshaw over the top. I have to say, we'll come on to whether it was a penalty or not in a moment, but I thought Tom Lockyer did superbly to kind of just push him out wide. He's sort of running with Lockyer, Bradshaw and Lockyer, and bit of a tussle. And then Bradshaw does manage to get a shot away and the keeper makes a good save, but he'd been forced wide. Now, I've watched this one back. Bradshaw wanted a penalty. As a home fan, of course, you want a penalty. But looking at it, I think there is a foul in there for sure, but you don't get those as penalties. Rightly or wrongly, you don't get them as penalties. I think it would have been soft. Yeah, I don't think you get those as penalties, and I think you have to give credit to the Luton defender for doing enough, as they say, to put him off. There's definitely a bit of physicality in there, but I think, I don't think it was enough to be a penalty, personally. Anyway, I've got to say, first 20, I thought we looked good. Really good with our pressing, really good moving forwards. 28 minutes, a shot from Leonard, comes out of nowhere, really. No, that was on 32. Sorry, got my timings wrong. It comes out of nowhere, really. It sort of breaks to him at the edge of the box and he sort of pivots. And I think he doesn't really think he's going to shoot to start with. I think he's looking to play it out wide. But it sort of opens up and he has a shot and it's a really good shot. hits it and connects with it really, really well. Technique, bottom corner, and it shows you a replay of the keeper because that was going in, and the keeper knew about it. He had to make a really, really good save. So to me, we're 28 minutes in, and we've already had 3 good chances, and they've created the square root of Jack. And I think, to be honest with you, the first half, I thought we were really, really good. There was a couple of times where it's sort of pinball in their box that come to nothing, free kicks, corners. We the first half, I thought we were good without finding that first goal. And you always knew the first goal would be critical because I think the draw suited Luton a lot more than it did us. And I think whilst I'm not saying they came to get a draw at all, I'm not suggesting that, but I think they'll be looking at the point and be happy with it, to be honest. And if we'd have scored, they would have had to have come out a bit more. And I don't think they did that much. And it's just typical. We couldn't find that goal. And as I say, that's where I'm concerned. The last 3 games, we've not managed to score. And ultimately, I still think we're 1 forward short of a guaranteed top 6 team. I just hope that doesn't come back to bite us on the arse. Anyway, so that was the first half. I've got to just mention, and I'll come on to player ratings. I watched Jules Saville yesterday really closely, and he, in the first half, I've got to say, he was outstanding. Outstanding. He didn't put a foot wrong. He was everywhere. In actual fact, when I say they didn't create anything, they almost did because Saville cleared one, not off the line, but it was kind of like it was heading towards the line, and it was his sort of intervention that cleared it. I'm going to say it now. Saville was my man of the match yesterday by a country mile. I thought he was outstanding, and his first half performance was superb. He was everywhere. It has to be said. So we're going at half time, and I felt to myself, I didn't think they were going to be as bad as they were in the first half. So I thought they'd come out in the second half and do a bit better. But I also felt confident. We talk about it all the time. Second half is usually our half, attacking towards a cold blow, packed house, blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't happen for us in the second half. I have to say, I thought the first 10, 15 minutes, they came out and they started really, really well. And although they didn't create much, they really pinned us back. And sort of up until the 60-minute mark where Vogie has the chance, that it was them that were forcing corners and free kicks and things. As I say, they didn't really create anything clear cut, but it was frustrating for the first 15 minutes or so. I thought they were on top. We do have 2 very good chances in the second half. So the first one, and I don't know what order this came in. So the first one is a free kick, foul on Danny Mack from, I think, Alfie Doughty. Jules Saville puts the ball into the box, and then Murray Wallace heads it narrowly over the bar. I think the keeper had it covered. I don't think it was ever going in, but it wasn't. It was a half chance. And then the other chance, of course, is the Vogelsammer chance. And again, ball pumped over the top. Vogelsammer anticipates it really well, makes the run, beats the offside trap, gets into a position, and he has to hit that first time because, as we find out, because he doesn't, Osho and Lockyer get back and he just can't get out of his feet. It's to me, it's the same as Burke in the first half. These players have got to be doing better in those positions. They do superbly well to anticipate it, put the yards in and make the run. But when it comes to it, they have to be better at taking these chances. And we'll come on to ratings in a moment, but I felt the 2 wide men let us down yesterday. Anyway, they have a couple of good shots. Between the sort of 60-minute mark I've written here and the sort of 80-minute mark, it gets quite bitty, to be honest. There's sort of lots of, I think Mpanzu went down for a couple of minutes and it frustrated the crowd because he could have rolled off to the side because right by the side, but he didn't. Stops the game. It was just getting really bitty. I think Campbell made a couple of fouls and then I think it was about 80 minutes, they have their first shots on target, which, again, we've taken a team that are currently sitting 3rd in the league and we've limited them to not shot on target until 80 minutes. You have to look at that and sort of give it credit as well. But it's 2 chances they had, one from Morris, one from Doughty. Good saves from Long, but they're saves that I would expect him to make, to be honest. Gets good distance on the saves. And the only other thing I've written here really was a couple of chances for some good balls into the box from Rom. A possible penalty with Cooper. I've watched it back, and I think we're only as fuming about it as we are because there's ones that have been more blatant in recent weeks that have not been given. So the West Brom one for me was more blatant than this one. Just my personal view. Because if you actually look at Lockyer, yes, he's being physical, but his eyes are solely on the ball. There's been games with West Brom, they're not even looking at the ball, they're just grabbing him. So I actually don't know whether we should have had a penalty yesterday. I've only seen the Bradshaw one back. I've seen the Cooper one back. There was one in the first half, actually, I've not mentioned, where it's the bloke on the hand. And his hand is in an unnatural position because it's here. Can't see it, it's here. But it's very close to the ball. So I'm not going to, pretend to know the rules. I don't know whether you're that close, even if it's an unnatural position, whether that's a penalty or not. But if that is the rules, then that was the one that was a penalty and no one's really talking about it. So, yeah, I don't know, frustrating. I will say, and I'd never talk about linos, but the linesman near me, near the dugout area, the amount of times that, and again, you have to give credit to Lockyer because, our players do it. And he's absolutely sold the lino up a few times. There was one with Burke in the second half where there's absolutely no contact, but he just falls to the floor. As soon as he feels someone coming in at the back of him, falls to the floor, wins a free kick. I'm sure he's their captain. That's what, from their perspective, you want your captain to be doing. Slowing the game down, winning these free kicks in the corners and taking the pressure off of everyone. So, but the lino, I thought he was absolute shambles. It summed it up for me when they had a break because Impanzu were rolling around on the floor. And the players came over to have a drink because the water bottles were in the technical area and the players were walking into the technical area. He came in and sort of had a go and intervened. So, yeah, I have to say, I don't know who linesman is, but that's a real job well done, mate. I'm really pleased you were there to do that. It's just pathetic. But concentrate on doing your job and not giving away these silly fouls. But anyway, I think when Rom came on, he showed some glimpses of brilliance. He also showed some really stupid decisions, which is why for me he's still not quite there. But we'll come on to him in a minute. So I think the game then sort of peters out. But ultimately, how was it only 4 minutes as well? I've written down here. I think there was 5 or 6 subs. Impanzu was down for 2 or 3 minutes whilst there was a drinks break. How on earth has he only got 4 minutes? I'm not saying we'd have scored because I don't think we would have done. But yeah, so it finishes 0-0. And what I'll do now is I'll just go through some more observations and then I'll go on to the sort of player rating. So I've written down here that I've already said this, but there wasn't much quality in the game yesterday. I think there probably is never going to be much quality from us, if I'm honest, because of the way we play. But let's not do anything. It's effective. And Rob Edwards spoke after the game about how effective we are at the things that we do. Lots of balls into the box, physicality. He also talked about how against Millwall, you don't just have to win the first phase and then the second phase. You have to win the third phase because we're really good at that. And that just shows again about the effort, commitment and desire from our players. The other thing as well, which he touched on, which I felt, particularly with the 2 chances with Burke and Vogelsammer that we had, they were all from anticipation from our forwards. Our forwards are really good, particularly with these long balls, because and the Bradshaw one actually, all 3 of our key chances were from the Burke one, not so much, but you get what I'm saying in terms of balls over the top, long balls over the top. And because our strikers know that's how we play, they anticipate it, and that's how we get into the right positions. Don't underestimate that because there's no, it's no surprise that's how we score a lot of our goals. So, what else have I said here? I've said here that I think you can look at it one or 2 ways. You can look at it and say, we've not scored for 3 games. Our last win was against Swansea, I believe, or was it Reading? I'm gonna go Swansea. It might not have been. I should have checked that. But let's say it's Swansea. I'm sure someone will correct me. And we were lucky to win that. Let's be honest. I think Swansea played us off the park. and we haven't scored in 3 games. Our form's not that good, and we're now going into the last 6, probably needing 3 or 4 wins. You can look at it that way. You can then look at it the other way and say that Swansea are one of the best footballing sides going forwards. Their position probably doesn't reflect how good they are going forward. They just can't defend. We beat them. The Huddersfield game, since then, they've beaten Middlesbrough and Watford quite comfortably. And then we've taken a point against West Brom at their place, where their own form is outstanding. And then we've got a point at home to a Luton side, arguably should have won it. And that is against a team that are the informed team in the league. So, again, it depends how you look at it. And that's why I think the whole game's crucial, because I think the whole game will tell us where we are. If we go to the whole game and we don't get 3 points, I think then we start to worry. But I think what I'm trying to say is I don't think the last 3 or 4 games are really representative of a typical, it's a tough patch is what I'm trying to say. So again, it depends how you look at it. My concern is there's 2 teams I think now that we should be worried about in terms of taking our place or Blackburn's place or both. Because I think Middlesbrough and Luton are in the playoffs now, for sure. So the first one's Norwich. So we know they always beat us. And they're a very good side going forward. They beat Blackburn yesterday 2-0. And I think their fixtures are quite favourable, to be honest, moving in. And I can see them winning sort of 4 or 5 out of 6, to be honest with you. So I think they're a team that I'm concerned with. And then Preston. So Preston have sort of gone under the radar a little bit. And when I looked at their fixtures, their last 10 games, they've only lost 2. And those 2 they've lost are against Middlesbrough and Burnley. Anyone else, they've not lost. They've either beaten or drawn. Their away form is very, very good. They win 50% of their away games, which is very, 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 very good. They got a 47% to be exact. So they're a good side, and if they beat us, it goes in their hands. So this is the thing. I honestly think Hull and Preston games are massive, absolutely massive, and I think they will tell us where we're going to be. And I know it's easy to say because we'll only have 4 games left after that. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think we need to beat Hull. We need to set the tone, and we need to beat Hull. I think that is absolutely vital. Of course, the other sort of negative from yesterday is the injuries. So we know about Cresswell now. We also know about it looks like Leonard picked up a groin strain. Hopefully it's not too bad, but he was signalling to come off. So it just feels like you get one back and another one goes. And whilst I think that the good thing we have, we've got players like Hutch coming back in for Cresswell. In the centre of the park, it'll either be Mitchell or Shackleton. I don't think it weakens the team too much, which is credit to the sort of, I suppose, I say depth. We haven't got loads of depth, but the players we have got are all, pretty at a level. But ultimately, you can't say it won't affect us. So that's the thing I'm sort of concerned about. But anyway, let me go into the ratings. So again, just going to always caveat this. It's my opinion, and if I give a player a particularly good rating or a bad rating, it doesn't mean that they're my favourite or whatever. I'm just calling it as I see it based on yesterday, and it's just an opinion. All right. So Long, I've given 7. I felt that didn't do anything wrong, and I felt he made 2 decent saves, so I've given him a 7. By the way, we always talk about Long's kicking. I don't think it was the best yesterday, but we always talk about Long's kicking. Horvath's kicking was just as good, if not better. So just something else that I sort of noticed yesterday. The fullbacks. So I've given Danny Mack a 5.5 because I felt yesterday in the first half he was quite poor, and he sort of grew into the second half. But I felt Alfie Doughty got the better of him for the majority of the game. A couple of good tackles near the end, but yeah, I don't think it was Danny Mack's best game yesterday. I have to say, and he sort of won a few crucial free kicks in the second half. But overall, I don't think his play was great, and I don't think either of our fullbacks, I'll come on to Muzzer in a moment, offered us much going forwards. So that was Danny Mack. I thought Murray Wallace I've given a 6, so slightly better than Danny Mack, and that's purely because I felt that at times he was involved a lot more in the game. I felt like, especially in the first half, everything was down that sort of left hand side, and I felt he was a little bit more solid defensively up against Drama on that sort of left hand side. But I wouldn't say either of them were particularly strong yesterday. And it's weird. Murray Wallace, I've seen... So the general consensus is that Danny Mack wasn't his best game yesterday that I've seen. Murray Wallace, I've seen some people say he was brilliant. Some people say he was terrible. So, but for me, a 6. I've given Hutch and Cooper a 7 each. I felt Hutch started really slowly and I was a little bit worried, but I think he grew into the game. And I think Cooper had a really good game as well. I think, as I said earlier, Adebayo and Morris gave as good as they got. And Cooper or Hutch will know they've been a real physical battle. But up against physical players like that, it kind of suits us. When we've got pace and directness running at us, I'm not so sure. I'm a little bit worried about Hutch. He's not looked the same to me. And I don't know whether that's just because of fitness or whatever, but in the sort of substitute appearances he's made, I felt a little bit concerned. However, I thought overall he was good yesterday, hence why I've given him a 7. He came off, I think, because of cramp, so hopefully that means that he will be fine for the game against Hull. If not, we are really in shit street. So giving those both a 7, I thought Leonard was great again. I thought he, again, interceptions. I mean, I'm saying the same thing every week, but I thought Leonard was really, really good. So I've given him an 8. Saville, I'm giving him a 9. His first half performance was a 10. It really was. I thought he was outstanding. Seriously, watch the game back and watch George Saville. He was brilliant yesterday. Second half performance wasn't as good. I don't think anyone's was. So that's why I've dropped it down a bit. But I thought Saville was just superb. He knows when to put his foot on the ball. Really good at just slowing the game down, creating the tempo. He sets the tempo. Sort of spraying balls out, bringing people in. The amount of free kicks he won yesterday, interceptions, challenges, just a complete performance, particularly in that first half. So George Saville, man of the match. I thought Fleming was quiet, to be honest. I've given him a 6. Don't think he did anything wrong. Just don't think he impacted the game as much as we'd like him to. So, given him a 6. The 2 front wide men, I've given a 5. The first 20 minutes, I thought Burke, you could probably give him an 8. After that, I just felt he wasn't in the game, and he just frustrates me so much, Burke, because he's got so much ability and talent, but for whatever reason, it's just not clicking. And I don't think he offered too much in that second half at all, if I'm being honest. Vogie, look, I'm not a massive Vogie fan. I also don't think he's as bad as some people say. I think he's a decent member of the squad. But yesterday, Vogie, when he does well, he may not play well the whole game, but he'll impact the game. He'll create something or he'll score or whatever. Yesterday was a typical Vogie performance, but he didn't create or score anything. So in reality, in terms of his all-round game that he offered, I'm going to give him a 5. And Burke and Vogie, like those 2 chances, you've got to take one of them. Hence the rating. And Bradshaw, I've given Bradshaw an 8 because I actually think up against 3 centre halves, they'd have known they'd been in a battle, and it was largely down to him. His effort, run rate, and endeavour was just unbelievable yesterday. And I know he didn't score, but if you actually watch him and look at the amount of runs he's willing to make and the sort of challenges, some of his link-up play is really, really good. And I think if he'd have scored yesterday, people would have appreciated his performance a lot more. But so I'm giving him an 8. I'm not going to give subs ratings. All I will say is, with Romain Esse, I am really, really caught on whether to give him more minutes, because he does some really, really good things. He really does. he can beat a man, he can put balls into the box, and he did it on a couple of occasions yesterday. But then at the same time, he is coming on when we're trying to pin a team back. So it's very difficult to understand how for 90 minutes what his work rate would be the other way. We don't know. I'm not saying it would be poor, but we don't know. And is it the right time to try and find that out? Then there was one thing he did in the second half, which actually ended up leading to the Cooper penalty shout, where he just sort of flicked it with his leg, and it honestly could have gone anywhere. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch it back. Like, it comes out to him, I think he's just inside their half, and he just sort of chucks a foot at it, and luckily it could have gone literally anywhere. It goes to Danny Mack, who then pumps it forward and with the possible Cooper penalty. But it's there's things like that where I just don't know. But then I look at it and be like, can he really offer any less in the last sort of 30, 40 minutes than Burke or Vogie do? So I'm really cool on him. There's no doubt about his quality. If he's here next season, I think he'll start many games. But I'm not too sure. What do you think? And then I also would love to know who would your player of the year be right now? If you had to choose right now, which I'm sure we will have to choose very soon, who would your player of this season be? I'd love to know everyone's opinions on that. I am going to Hull. I'll be back late, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do one of these because I'm straight into travelling for work the next day as well. So don't know if I'm going to be able to do one of these. I will try, but I'm going and hopefully get to see a few of you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, your long weekend, your Easter weekend. Eat loads of chocolate. We're still in the playoffs. Bit of perspective is key again. But I really think we need to beat Hull to keep it in our hands. And I think that's the way I would summarise this. So thanks very much for listening. Gone over 30 minutes again. So apologies for keeping these nice and long. But there are reasons for that. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.